You may please be seated. Welcome back, Honorable Premier, honorable members. Now the Secretary will read the second order of the day.
Debate on Vote 10, Transport and Public Works, Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I now recognize the Minister of Transport and Public Works, Honorable Matikizela.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Premier, the Leader of the Opposition, Cabinet colleagues, members of the House, the DG, and let me also take the opportunity to welcome our guests in the gallery, and thank you very much for joining us in our legislature. It is my privilege to present the adjusted estimate for Vote 10, the Department of Transport and Public Works for 2019-20. In the short time I've been the Minister of this department, I have come to appreciate the broad-ranging role which this department plays in the overall service delivery by the Western Cape government to the resident of this province. The demand for new infrastructure and critical needs for the effective maintenance of existing immovable assets, including our extensive road network, are relentless. Under normal circumstances, Mr. Speaker, our capacity would be stretched to meet these obligations. This is understood. However, we're also all painfully aware of the additional burdens imposed by the damage caused to facilities, properties, and resources by the ongoing service delivery protest. Added to this, Mr. Speaker, I am sure that the members of this House, irrespective of their affiliations, need no convincing of the reality of the overall economic situation of South Africa, as described so eloquently by my colleague, Minister Meunier, last Tuesday in this House. Hardly a day passes without a further economic body blow to our already staggering economy. In the broad transport sphere, there exists the real possibility that South Africa's national air carrier, which could not meet its November remuneration obligation in one payment, could be shut down while the commuter rail system is increasingly dysfunctional. Both of these services are critical if the country is to embark on the challenging path to recovery. During the second reading debate last week, I referred to another serious threat facing our overall ability to deliver and to maintain the crucial infrastructure needed to meet our service demands and needs of the people of the Western Cape. This threat, Mr. Speaker, is the continuing loss of capacity in the construction industry. Many companies, large and small, have shut down completely or have scaled down their operations in the last few years. The list is long and goes hand in glove with reality of serious job losses. Against this backdrop, I recently invited the construction industry to interact with me, my colleague, Minister Simmers, and the MECO member of Human Settlements in the City of Cape Town, Councillor Boy, as well as senior staff members of the Department of Transport and Public Works. The intention, Mr. Speaker, was to convey to this important sector the infrastructure opportunities which make up my department's project program as planned, as well as to ensure that individual companies and undertakings have met or are able to meet the requirements to participate in the future opportunities. More than 150 delegates attended what was a positive, enthusiastic event structured to allow for open dialogue and follow up with those undertakings requiring further information and assistance. Mr. Speaker, similar events are in the pipeline to allow me to interact with other essential components of key sectors within my portfolio that contribute to the economic growth and job creation. And I have already started to meet some of these sectors, including the taxi industry, GAPS, and also the our stakeholders in the rail transport. Mr. Speaker, let me now turn to the specific details of my department's budget estimates. The main appropriation of vote 10 increases by 440,076,000. This is 5.4% of the original allocation of 8.1 billion rands and is made up of the following: rollovers from the previous financial year of 14.68 million, revenue retention from previous financial years mainly related to increased owned revenue from over-collected motor vehicle license fees of 135.466 million, increased owned revenue received in 2019, which is 6.750 million, and provincial asset financing reserve, which is equal to 260.58 million. Mr. Speaker, the details of all the allocations from this total increase are available to the members in the adjusted estimates of provincial expenditure for 2019 as tabled. I do, however, want to highlight a number of these as follows. The rollovers of 16.861 million, which is Program 5, Transport Regulation. 10.231 million of those rollovers from 2019 financial year is to provide agency fees payable to municipalities in respect of the collection of motor vehicle licenses. 1.2 from 2018-19 financial year is to provide for legal fees in relation to the arbitration between government and the minibus taxi industry. And 3.250 rollover from 2018-19 financial year is to provide for operating costs and improved databases underpinning regulatory functions on systems in the transport regulation environment, such as the land transport permit system and provincial transport regulation system. Revenue retention of 2018-19, which is 135,466,000, and this one is in the program 2, which is public works infrastructure, and 12.694 of that is going to that particular program. And 5.725 million, Mr. Speaker, is to fund the design and construction of the access road linking the Lowville community to the community daycare center in Saldanha. 6.9 million is to provide for the refurbishment of the office accommodation. And then program 3, transport infrastructure, 7 million. This 7 million, Mr. Speaker, is for the upgrade of the provincial main road, which is MR201. And then in program 4, transport operations, 91.379 million is to fund Transport Hub, which is an innovative smart city government approach that leverages the potential of technology to improve transport in the Western Cape by providing decision makers with better data and integrated information, enables real-time monitoring of road traffic, public transport and crime, and enables the immediate and rapid deployment of law enforcement. And in program 5, transport regulation, 24.393 million is to provide for legal fees in relation to the arbitration between government and the minibus taxi industry for operation costs and meeting allowances for the Western Cape Provincial Taxi Council and Provincial Transport Regulation, which is part of the broader Transport Hub intended to improve the databases underpinning the program's regulatory functions of the program, of this program. 22 million is to provide for agency fees payable to municipalities in respect of the collection of motor vehicle licenses. Now, in terms of the increased owned revenue, program 2, public works infrastructure, as I said, 6.750, and then out of this 6.570, 2.508 is refund received from the state attorney for the purchase price of ERF 1936 in Zwelihle to be used or utilized for the refurbishment of the office accommodation. and 4.242 of that is additional provision for the construction of the government motor transport hub in George. And in terms of the asset financing reserve, that is 260,548,000, and 54.6 of that is for the development of the appropriate technological support, named eMerge, to address the need for whole life cycle management of all the immovable assets of the department. Componentize fixed asset and use enterprise architecture with the aim to implement building information modeling and optimize fragmented processes. And 11.547 is for workplace skills training, inclusive of new initiatives, such as ethics training for all staff and the leadership development, mentoring and coaching program for public works infrastructure, development of an internal and external communication strategy and content for the department, long service awards and exit gratuity payments, and development of finance modules and reporting. 32.209 million is for the acquisition of ERF 2770 in Hout Bay and ERF 1688 in Worcester for education purposes, and portion 34 of Farm 918 in Castro for health purposes. 66.53 million is to provide for the refurbishment of office accommodation again. 66.6 is to provide for the shortfall on operational cost that the department is contractually responsible for, additional travel costs and infrastructure requirement for the George integrated public transport, such as transit infrastructure, pavement upgrades, and turning circles upgrade to enable a larger class of vehicle to be allowed on routes in George. 661,000 is to provide for additional operational costs for provincial traffic services. Mr. Speaker, this final item is an appropriate one with which to conclude. We will soon once again be in the holiday and festive season. The need for responsible driving, reinforced by sound traffic law enforcement, will always, at these times, be critical for all of us. This week, on the 5th of December, together with the Premier, we will be launching our intensive festival season road safety program, which is already in operation. And once again, Mr. Speaker, as I have been doing for some time now, I'd like to appeal to all the people on our roads to make sure that they drive and behave responsibly. We have seen too many lives that we have lost lives that could have been saved if all of us, were behaving responsibly on the road. So this is the appeal that I want to make to all of us. And I would like to present this adjustment budget. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize the committee chair, Honorable Mitchell.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, the aim of the Department of Transport and Public Works is to deliver infrastructure which sustains public health, education, housing, and transportation services to advance integration and provide opportunities for the province's socio-economic well-being. The adjusted estimates of provincial expenditure in the Department of Transport and Public Works gives effect to this mandate, but reappropriating funds to serve the needs of the people of the province in the latter part of the 2019-2020 financial year. Allow me the opportunity, Honourable Speaker, to highlight some of the most significant adjustments. 32 million rand has been appropriated to acquire land in Hout Bay and Worcester for education purposes in order for our government to bring education services closer to the residents who need them. In Grabouw, portion 34 of Farm 918 have been acquired for health services as part of our commitment to providing universal public health care across the province. 24 million rand for the George Integrated Public Transport Network, which will expand on the public transport nodes, linking residents to jobs and opportunity and opening up the town for tourism and investment purposes. An additional 661,000 rand directed to provincial traffic services ensuring safety on our roads, especially as we approach the festive season. Just under 6 million rand to fund design and construction of the access road linking the Lowville community to the Community Day Centre in Saldanha. This project, again, Honourable Speaker, will make public services accessible to the residents who need them. 7 million rand for the upgrades to the Provincial Main Road 201, which is a major arterial route for provincial logistics, and 91 million rand to fund the transport hub. Honourable Speaker, the importance of good functional transportation system is crucial to achieving a working economy. In the same light, Speaker, it is of utmost importance that we utilize our public infrastructure and land to the benefit of the Western Cape citizens in a manner that is sustainable. However, Honourable Speaker, we cannot be blind to the unprovoked politicking from the ANC national government, which continues to inhibit progress where public transport and land use in the inner city of Cape Town is concerned. Speaker,
Order, honourable members. Please proceed, Honourable Mitchell.
Speaker, just last week, 18 train carriages were set alight in which was clearly an act of wanton cruelty to the thousands of residents who rely on the system in order to put bread on the table. The failure of our rail system is proof, Honourable Speaker, that the PRASA war room is a futile and mere act of expediency. Honourable Speaker, as we vote in this appropriation budget, I want to echo the following statement. The mandate and budget of passenger rail transportation must be given to governments at sub-national level. Under national control, the rail transportation and freight rail system have all but collapsed. Passengers are left stranded each and every day, and large companies are forced to shut their doors as the reliability of freight rail has eroded and electricity supplies dwindles under Eskom. Honourable Speaker.
Order, honourable members. Please proceed, Honourable Mitchell.
Honourable Speaker, the Department of Transport and Public Works cannot carry out the services upon which our people depend when national government can't even get a train on the tracks or keep the lights on. It is pointless, Honourable Speaker, building schools, hospitals and roads when life-saving equipment, street lights and school computers have no power to run on. This is a crisis that national government continues to ignore, and it is high time that the centralization of these services be broken down and the mandate given to governments closer to the people who need them. Honourable Speaker, in conclusion, I would like to take this opportunity to thank each and every member of this committee, as well as the department under the leadership of the HOD, for the robust engagements we have had thus far in the 6th Parliament. A special thank you to my procedural officer, Mr. Johan Kutsia, for his sterling work and support, and a special thank you, Honourable Speaker, to the public for their contributions to this committee. We value the role each and every one of you play in this vital oversight process. Honourable Speaker, I'm proud to say that the DA supports this vote.
Thank you, Honourable Mitchell. Honourable members, now I recognize Honourable Mvimbi.
Real oversight. Now oversight takes place, eh?
So,
Oversight, not extension of the executive.
Support.
Order, honourable members.
So what?
Please
Somlomo,
proceed, honourable member.
one of the most pressing challenges that we are faced with as a country is the slow progress being made to address the legacy of apartheid spatial planning. This department, as the custodian of immovable assets in the province, should play a vital role to address the legacy of apartheid spatial planning. However, the department, although it has been allocated an additional 440 million in this adjustment estimate, it will not be utilizing any of that to address this problem. In any way, this additional fund should not be used for acquisition of new properties, as the provincial government already owns suitable pockets of land, like Tafelberg School site, as well as the Helen Bowden building, which are suitable for integration and use for social housing. My appeal to the provincial minister, who is also a shadow leader of the DA, by the way, in the province. In that, he must stand up and fight for the rights of our people. Our people need housing and land near the places of their workplaces, closer where they are actually working. Speaker, this department is responsible for public works infrastructure in the province. According to this adjustment, there is over 176 million additional for infrastructure development. Now, however, in spite of this, because of some poor workmanship and poor project management, which is actually the skills that might be lacking in these critical areas, the MEC should also give special focus on this. I raise this because a substantive amount of funds for infrastructure development are shifted to non-important programs because of delay of various construction projects. And delays in construction projects can only be due to some lack of project management skills. For instance, 28 million is surrendered to Provincial Revenue Fund due to slower than anticipated spending in the budget for maintenance to the child and youth care centers. The poor management of funds in this department is negatively impacting on the functioning of other departments. For example, the chaos at Fairdale Primary School, there is no running water and other municipal services due to this department's failure. Kuzafuneka ke nyana kangutyana ube ngathi uyazitsala ikawusi okanye kungekudala uzazibona untyumpantyumpeka emgxobhozweni wokungasebenzi kwedepartment yakho. All that we are saying is we welcome the additional fund. We hope they can be utilized to benefit the poor. And we are also concerned with the department's poor management in some areas. Somlomo, Program 4, transport operation of the department will be spending 91.3 million to fund a transport hub, which is an innovative smart city government approach. I wish when the MEC get the time, he'll tell us how will this assist commuters in the province who spend hours stuck on the road. He must tell us how this will assist the peasant in Beaufort West, in the far rural region, who do not even have buses or taxis to move around in their own rural areas. The program is also getting an additional 66.6 million, for which it will spend 42 million to provide for the shortfall on operational costs, as well as 24 million on Go George. Everyone has come to accept that our integrated public transport network in the province is in a state of paralysis. The My City services in Khayelitsha and Mistress Plain have been suspended for several months, and that has got nothing to do with national government. It's the provincial government together with the city of Cape Town. No provincial government to blame there and accuse. Instead of addressing the impasse so that services may resume, the minister keeps on pumping funds to these current cracks. What is needed in the Go George and My City, sometimes it's not money, but we need strong leadership to take a position and that position be done. And don't blame other government that have got nothing to do with the project. Every time when they are delayed, the minister will say he's waiting for the national minister. The problem is in the province, minister. It does not need national minister. If the problem is in the province, deal with it. And don't keep on saying that, no, the national minister this and the national minister that, because the people are not going to say national minister. You must.
Order, order, honorable members.
Are you in the department now?
This poor leadership,
Order, honorable members.
You must howl. When you howl, you must howl with the content.
Deputy MEC,
Honorable Mvimbi, will you please take your seat?
a deputy MEC indeed.
Honorable members, we've been going quite well. I think we must accept that the more we talk across the floor, we are disrupting the business of the House. So may we please conduct ourselves and observe Rule 39 and Rule 40 so that we're able to proceed seamlessly. I recognize Honorable Mvimbi.
I hope, Honorable Speaker, that time you've kept for me, so because sometimes this howling without a content, they are actually quite a disruption. When you howl, you must howl with a content. Otherwise, that is what is needed in the Go George and my seat is not money but leadership. Sadly, it is something that we lack in the Western Cape. This poor leadership is also vivid in the department handling of the conflict and violence in the mini taxi industry. Several routes have been suspended for several months without following proper procedures. On top of that, in this adjustment estimate, this department has set aside some money for legal activities to fight in this arbitration, to provide for legal fees in relation to the arbitration between government and the minibus taxis. Now, we always say that sometimes even at local government, when councillors, even mayors are taking the provincial government to court, we are saying that we want the councillors to be responsible for that funding, for payment of that. I hope we are going to follow the same trend in the province as well. If the minister take anybody to court, he must also be held personally liable for those costs. This clearly shows that this government is hell-bent on killing the taxi industry in the province. It shows that this government really wants to kill this black-run business, which survived even the apartheid regime. It will be a sad thing that if this government, democratic government, it's supposed, will be the one that will want to kill the only industry that was established by black people and even still run by black people. And now, in the hands of a democratic government, we want to kill that industry. We are now approaching the festive season. Thousands will be on our roads traveling home to various provinces. It is always a difficult time, as you know, that hundreds will perish on the roads and sometimes will not reach their destination.
Will you please wrap up?
I would like to wish travel message to everyone who will be traveling during the next coming 2 weeks. We had hoped that more funds will be made available to employ more traffic officers so that we can manage. We all know there is shortage of traffic officers, yet the budget for employing more personnel for transport safety and personnel is diverted to SAP.
Thank you. Order, honorable members. Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. I now recognize Honorable Teko.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Ngujan, I think uboss wakho nguye othi wena ICT uboss wakho uthi wena urhuqa inyawo ukuqinisekisa ukuthi i-modernization program kwi-Department of Public Works is being speeded up. Imali end up isuswa. Asilindelanga loo nto leyo kuwe. This thing of the provincial government blaming the national government, it needs to come to an end. You need to take full responsibility for your own actions because you are ministers. You are not, you refer yourselves as ministers. The state of public works transport in the Western Cape is at a bad state. The DA government-led is not doing much about it. This government is failing to intervene the issues affecting the poor, but mostly concerns itself with issues concerning the rich. For example, the opportunity arose for the provincial government to liaise with the national government to address the issues of shortages of trains and railways lines, but they failed to take that opportunity because they always shifted the blame and shifted the goalposts. And then in terms of the public works, with regards to the public works, when one looks at the adjusted estimated provincial revenue expenditure, the one finds that 34 million being surrendered to the provincial revenue fund, which was originally earmarked to be the filling of posts that you failed dismally to find candidates for. And this happens at the backdrop of serious unemployment in the province, which means therefore that you are directly impacting on the unemployment rate that we experience here in the Western Cape. The DA lacks the filling of all these posts because it does not care about the poorest of the poor, because you know who doesn't work. And under your leadership, Nguchana, we are very much disappointed that we've got those kind of experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Tlego. Now I recognize Honorable Heron.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the Minister was correct when he spoke about the urgent demand for new infrastructure and roads. And last week, the Minister of Finance allocated 311 million rand for infrastructure expenditure, although I'm struggling to find that 311 million rand within the entire budget. But nevertheless, in the Transport and Public Works under Programme 2, there's a welcome 176 million additional allocation through virements and adjustments. But I do want to ask the Minister to take or pay attention to the fact that he's allocating almost a third of that to office refurbishment, 66 million rand for office refurbishment, which seems to me that the priority is to take care of ourselves before we take care of communities and the infrastructure demand that the Minister identified as being important and urgent. So if the Minister can please look at how we're allocating 66 million rand to office refurbishment when he identified himself that there's an urgent need for infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Heron. Honorable members, now I would like to bring to the attention of the House that the ACDP, Freedom Front Plus, Al Jamar, they are not present in the House. Therefore, I will now recognize the Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I really want to engage constructively in this debate. Chairperson, I want to thank you very much for the role that you play as the chairperson of the committee. I know that most of us, particularly in this portfolio, have not been here for a very long time, and I must really commend you for how you've managed to grasp the complexities of this department. And I do want to agree with you that the issue of the arson on our trains is a serious issue that we need to deal with. And in fact, I will deal with this issue and also respond to Member Mvimbi. And as I said, the approach that I want to take here is the constructive one. Because I think it must be understood, because Member Kleko also spoke about this. Personally, I have no intention of shifting the blame and blaming national government. In fact, from day one, when I was appointed in this department, I communicated with the minister, and I committed myself to work cooperatively with the minister so that we can address the issues. But it must be understood, colleagues, that whether we like it or not, we have a constitution in South Africa, and in terms of that constitution, different spheres of government have different role to play. There are certain things I would want to do, but I can never do because I'm not empowered by the constitution to do that. I rely on the cooperation that I must get from my counterparts and colleagues from the national government. And even on the issue of PRASA, and in fact, when I met PRASA, I also made it very clear that there isn't a bad thing that has been said by PRASA that I should be saying. I think we must go past that. We must focus on finding solutions. But I must say, Mr. Speaker, that honestly, that if you look at the issue of war room that the chairperson has raised, it has been my frustration. And I do want to challenge Member Mvimbi as well, because we need to deal with this in the standing committee and see how do we have access to that war room so that we can really begin to be appraised of what is happening and what is not happening, what role should we play as this legislature and myself as the MEC. Because it has been really frustrating, Member Mvimbi, that I've tried several times to engage PRASA so that I can have access to that war room. And for me, really, politicizing this issue is not going to help anyone. It doesn't benefit anyone, because at the end of the day, the people who are affected most are the poorest of the poor. So I'm not going to gain anything by politicizing it. I really want to find a solution, as Member Mitchell, the chairperson, said. But also, the lack of intelligence in what has been now a regular occurrence in our trains is concerning. And this is the issue as well that I raised very sharply. It's not politicizing, but really, I cannot believe that when we know that on a regular basis our trains are torched, we have not been able to really find the perpetrators. And we need, this needs all of us to put our heads together so that we can find a solution to it. Now, Member Mvimbi, you must really decide, because you are contradicting yourself. In terms of this adjustment, we have bought land in a well-located areas where there's a need for school, where there's a need for health facility. But you are again blaming us for doing that, and yet we are saying we must bring people closer to the areas that are strategic, like Hout Bay, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you must make up your mind. The second thing, the issue, you raised the issue of lack of skills in my department. I just find that really hilarious, to say the least. This is a department that, as complex as it is, it spent 99.8% of its budget. It received clean audit, and therefore, it is really laughable when you raise the issue of skills in this department. What we need to do in this department, where we need to agree, is to find a way to bring more and more people in the department, especially in the areas of critical skills. And I had this discussion with you as the members of the committee, that we need to have a broader discussion as to how do we ensure that the transformation, particularly in my department, does happen. But you're not going to use a blunt instrument for you to be able to achieve that. We need the right people who must be given a bursary through Masaki Sizwe with the right subjects so that they can then be able to become part of the department. Because we're not going to embark on a zero-sum game where you get rid of people who are skilled when you do not have people to replace them with. So this is a critical discussion that we must have without necessarily politicizing it. And also the issue of operations. We always talk about fourth industrial revolution, where the need for technology is so critical. And the role that the technology is playing has resulted in a number of people being apprehended. Because we know that when you talk about crime, some of the criminals are using our roads. And this technology has played a very important role for us to trace and track the people who are committing crime in our road. So it is a very, very important adjustment for us to make so that we add capacity in that intelligence in terms of data so that we are able to do that. When it comes to minibus taxi industry, and again, we mustn't be disingenuous. I don't know how many times I've met the leadership of the minibus taxi industry. In fact, this is the industry that I had meetings with more than any other industry. And they will tell you. I think I had 3 meetings with Santaco already. There's a meeting. From the meeting that I had with Santaco, I'm now going to go and meet the individual associations, your CATAs, your CODETAs, and there is that commitment. Because I really want us to work together to deal with the challenges that exist here. On the issue of Go George, which is the last point I want to make. Now, and Member Clark must also understand this. We are partners in George. I mean, we've contributed more than R1 billion. The national government has contributed more than R1 billion. But you must understand the legislation, Mr. Clerk. In fact, the fact that the Provincial Department of Transport and Public Works is involved in George is through special arrangement. Because the truth is, the Provincial Department of Transport has nothing to do with the integrated transport in the cities. It's a direct relationship that is happening between national government and those municipalities. Same applied in the city of Cape Town, but the reason why we got involved in George is because of the issue of capacity, which was, discussed, and the arrangement that we have was agreed upon, and that is why we're involved. And therefore, it must be understood that when we went there with the national minister, we made a commitment. And again, this is not a political issue. And we committed to the people of George that we'll go back together in 45 days, and that hasn't happened. Now, again, if I go back alone, because I can't go back alone, it's the very same people who will then accuse me of playing politics into the gallery. And I don't want to do that. No. Now
Please,
you need to...
Honourable Minister, please address the Speaker.
Sorry, Speaker. Now you need to
Order,
understand,
Honourable
really, that for us to be able to resolve the problem of George, myself and the national minister need to be on the same page, need to go back there and make sure that the commitments that we made, because there are many other things that have resulted in that project being put on ice. And those issues need both of us to address. And my appeal, Mr. Speaker, to the members of the opposition this side, is to make sure that they engage the national minister so that we can go back to George. And they must understand the role that the national department needs to play and the role that I need to play, because this is a project that we are both responsible for. Now, the issue of the filling of the post, Mr. Clerk, you must also understand. Now, maybe you have a different understanding of the role of government. It is not the role of government to be the employer, sir. I know that maybe in your political ideology, that's what you believe. The role of government is to create an environment that is conducive for the economy to grow, for business to invest, and for employment to be created. Now, when you are faced with the critical...
Order, honourable members.
Now,
Let
when
us
we are
allow the
faced with the
minister
situation
to
that we
talk.
are facing, our budget is going to be cut by 5%, 6%, and 7% in the outer years. Now, we have to make some very difficult decisions as this government, including deciding whether to fill other posts that exist in our establishment as government. So those are some of the decisions that we need to take, and that is why we made that decision. But again, Member Heron, you spoke about the issue of the office refurbishment. And again, I think it's very important for us to understand that in a situation that we are facing in South Africa, we've got to strike the balance between funding the social cluster departments and making sure that you invest in infrastructure, but also maintain what you have. Because the biggest mistake that we often make in government, and that is why you have ESCOM today, is that maintenance becomes a sacrificial lamb. And what happens in the long run is that instead of spending 10 million to maintain what you have, you end up spending 100 million in the next 20 years because you failed to maintain what you have. And that is why that balance is very, very important. So it is not a mistake for us to take this decision to strike the balance to make sure that the issue of maintenance, the issue of funding social cluster, the issue of investment in infrastructure so that you can attract investment and grow the economy, you strike the balance so that you are able to avoid the situation that we've seen. Now, lastly, Mr. Speaker, I do want to thank the team, the HOD, and the team that is sitting here.
Order, Honourable Mvimbi. Order.
I want to take this opportunity and thank the HOD and the team. These are the people who really have been driving, this department, and they must be commended. and they are highly skilled, and they play a critical role in the economy of this province. And also, I want to take the opportunity and thank the chairperson and the members of the standing committee for keeping us on our toes. And again, just to reiterate what the Premier said, we are dealing with adjustment here. We are not dealing with the budget, we're dealing with the adjustment budgets, which means shifting funds around to an existing budget. Now, if you want to judge me, Member Mvimbi,
Order,
if you want to judge me on my own priorities that I've set, that obviously, because if you look at when the elections were and when the budget was passed, which means we'll be implementing in the upcoming financial year. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, thank you. Now I'm going to request that the honorable members take a 5-minute comfort break. Then the next vote will come in thereafter. Thank you very much. Thank you, honorable members.